Have you ever noticed how some people seem to always find themselves surrounded by chaos? It's almost as if they're carrying an invisible magnet that draws in emotional leeches, manipulators, and every flavor of toxic personality you can think of. Meanwhile, others seem to move through the same world, same streets, same workplaces, same social circles, but are somehow untouched, unnoticed by these emotional predators. Maybe you've asked yourself in moments of exhaustion, why does this keep happening to me? Why am I always the one targeted? If you're watching this, chances are you're drained. Maybe you're worn out from constantly being on edge, from feeling manipulated, or being caught in an endless cycle of toxic dynamics. Maybe you're someone who tries to keep the peace, gives more than they should, avoids confrontation at all costs, yet still ends up tangled in relationships that deplete you. And at some point, you might have started wondering if the problem is you. Before you internalize that thought, stay with me, because what we're going to explore here could flip a powerful switch inside you. Carl Jung, the brilliant mind behind analytical psychology, uncovered something most people never even consider. It's not just about bad luck or unfortunate timing. There's a subtle, deep-rooted mechanism at play, one that decides who toxic individuals are drawn to and who remains completely off their radar. And no, this mechanism isn't about being tougher, louder, or more assertive. It's far more subtle, and because of that, far more powerful. You see, toxic individuals operate like emotional predators. They can sense the wounds you carry, the ones you might not even be aware of. They're skilled at picking up on insecurities, hidden fears, and unresolved pain. That's what makes you stand out to them. That's what makes you visible. So, what's the antidote? How do you make yourself invisible to these people? Not by hiding or running, but by being so internally solid that they have nothing to latch onto. The answer lies in a concept Jung called integrating your shadow. This video is for you, the peacemaker, the giver, the overthinker, anyone tired of living in reaction to others. I'm not here to offer surface-level fixes like affirmations, catchy boundaries, or trendy phrases. This is deeper work. It's about meeting the parts of yourself you've kept buried, the ones you're ashamed of, the ones you've denied, and learning to bring them into the light. Jung famously said that everything that irritates us about others can lead to an understanding of ourselves. And in that self-awareness lies the power to change everything. Because the moment you stop projecting your shadow onto others, toxic people can no longer see you. Not because you're hiding, but because there are no longer emotional cracks for them to crawl into. Stay with me. I'm going to walk you through how to claim this power, not just to keep toxic people at bay, but to finally feel free. Free to show up fully, free to build healthy relationships, free to be yourself without needing to shrink, defend, or explain. Let's go deeper. Because the solution has never been to fight toxicity. The real secret is rising above the need for validation from those who live in the dark. Carl Jung devoted much of his life to decoding the hidden machinery of the human mind. One of his most striking revelations was this: we all carry unconscious patterns, deeply rooted in early experiences or emotional wounds, that shape how we interact with others. And without realizing it, these unresolved issues emit signals that people, especially toxic ones, pick up on. Toxic people don't randomly appear in our lives, nor do they choose their targets by accident. They are instinctively drawn to certain energies. Think of it like a radar. They can detect unhealed wounds even before a word is spoken. They sense where fear is hiding, where shame is buried, where unmet emotional needs linger under the surface. So, If you find yourself constantly entangled in manipulative relationships, surrounded by drama, or forced to defend your sanity again and again, it's not because there's something inherently broken in you, but you are, perhaps unknowingly, broadcasting subtle messages. Messages that say, there's still pain here, there's still insecurity, there's still something unresolved. This is what Jung referred to as projection. Whatever we reject or suppress within ourselves doesn't simply disappear. Instead, it transforms into an energy that leaks out into the world. And toxic individuals who thrive on emotional imbalance are experts at picking up on that frequency. They're not looking for strength or confidence. They're looking for cracks, emotional openings through which they can exert control, stir up chaos, and ultimately feed off your energy. These people don't necessarily wear villainous masks. Sometimes they seem charming, persuasive, or even deeply caring at first. But behind the facade, they are drawn to drama like moths to a flame. Now, here's the empowering truth. When you begin the process of integrating your shadow, all those parts of yourself you've tried to hide or disown, you develop what Jung called psychic integrity. It's a kind of inner coherence that is not loud or aggressive, but incredibly powerful. It's like tuning your internal frequency to a level that toxic people can't reach. People with psychic integrity don't walk around trying to prove themselves. They don't live in defense mode. They are grounded, centered, and solid. They've made peace with their darkness, and because of that, they can't be manipulated with shame or guilt. Their presence alone communicates, I know who I am, and I don't need your approval to validate that. And here's where things get interesting. When someone with unresolved issues interacts with a person who has integrated their shadow, the dynamic collapses. There's no drama to feed off, no button to push, no insecurity to exploit. It's like trying to scratch a surface that's perfectly smooth. There's nowhere for the claws to dig in. This is why Jung emphasized that the shadow isn't something to destroy. Denying it only weakens you. But when you embrace it, it becomes part of your strength. It becomes your shield. You might be wondering, okay, but how do I even begin to uncover and embrace a part of myself I've spent years trying to ignore? That's where the real inner work begins. And yes, it's messy. Sometimes it's painful. But the liberation it brings is unmatched. In the next part, we're going to dive straight into this process. We'll explore how to recognize your projections and decode what your reactions to toxic people are really telling you about your own inner wounds. This step is essential because the moment you begin to reclaim your projections is the moment you stop being a victim and start becoming whole. Let's step into a space that most people avoid, the uncomfortable space of turning inward. It's far easier to point fingers, to label others as narcissists, manipulators, or emotional vampires. And often those labels are true. But here's the hard truth. If that were the whole story, simply cutting ties with toxic individuals would be enough. Problem solved. But we know it's not that simple. You might have left a toxic relationship, switched jobs, or even moved to a new city, only to find yourself in an eerily similar situation. You escape a controlling partner and end up dating someone just as suffocating. You break ties with an emotionally draining friend, and another one takes their place. Sound familiar? This is where Jung offers us a difficult, but ultimately freeing insight. What we despise or are irresistibly drawn to in others often mirrors something within us, something we haven't made peace with yet. This phenomenon is projection in action. It's the mind's way of offloading the traits or desires we cannot accept in ourselves onto someone else. Think of someone who triggers you, someone who stirs up intense anger, frustration, or even fascination. Ask yourself, what is it about them that gets under my skin so much? Maybe it's their selfishness, their arrogance, their need for control. But if you dig deeper, you might discover that there's a part of you that wishes it could set firm boundaries, that craves influence, or wants to speak boldly without apology. These desires may have been buried long ago, perhaps in childhood, when you were taught that anger is wrong, that speaking up is rude, or that wanting attention makes you bad. So you learn to hide those instincts, to suppress those urges. But they don't disappear. They fester in the shadow. And when you encounter someone who lives out those suppressed traits without guilt, your reaction can be explosive, intense repulsion, envy, or even obsession. Jung believed that transformation begins with awareness, not by changing the outer world, but by changing how you see yourself in it. He famously said, "Only the transformation of the individual's attitude will begin to change the psychology of the nation." In other words, if you want to stop being bait for emotional predators, you need to stop emitting the frequency they respond to. It takes brutal honesty to ask, what part of me is this person reflecting? But in doing so, you begin to reclaim power that has been scattered and leaking out through these unconscious projections. You stop trying to fix or change others and start turning that energy inward, to understand, to heal, to integrate. This doesn't mean blaming yourself for others' toxic behaviors. Absolutely not. But it does mean acknowledging that your unhealed parts might be inviting in situations that perpetuate your wounds. And once you stop projecting, you become invisible to people who thrive on exploiting emotional vulnerabilities. They simply can't find a foothold in you anymore. But there's more to this transformation. The next crucial shift is learning not to feed the drama, because even if you've stopped projecting, toxic people will still try to engage you. What you do next will determine whether they stay or walk away. Now that you've started to understand the hidden projections that shape your interactions, we need to address something just as vital: the emotional drama itself, because recognizing your shadow is only the beginning. If you keep feeding the emotional games of toxic people, nothing truly changes. And here's one of the toughest truths to swallow. Often, without realizing it, we are the ones who supply the exact emotional fuel toxic individuals crave. They don't just want your time or attention. What they're really after is your emotional energy, your fear, your frustration, your desperation, your pain. Every emotional outburst, every plea to be understood, every argument trying to prove your point, those moments are nourishment to them. You are unknowingly participating in a dance. They provoke, you react. They toss a small emotional hook, maybe a passive-aggressive comment, an eye roll, a dismissive silence, and they wait. The moment you take the bait, they've won. Suddenly, it's not about their behavior anymore. It becomes about your reaction. You become too emotional, irrational, or sensitive. And worse, you start to doubt yourself. You feel ashamed, drained, and confused, while they walk away calm, maybe even playing the victim. Sound familiar? How many times have you found yourself desperately trying to explain something to someone who clearly isn't interested in understanding? How often have you left a conversation more confused than when you entered it, questioning whether maybe you are the problem? This is not by accident. Toxic people are masters of distorting reality. Their power lies not in direct aggression, but in subtle manipulations that knock you off balance. Their goal isn't to win an argument. It's to make you doubt your perspective, your memory, your sanity. Jung had a powerful teaching: what you resist persists. And in emotional dynamics, This is exactly what happens when you react intensely to someone's manipulation or cruelty. You're actually reinforcing their power over you. You're confirming, this still affects me deeply. And that's precisely the message they latch on to. So what's the solution? Neutrality. But don't confuse neutrality with weakness or passivity. Being neutral doesn't mean you silently endure abuse or let things slide. It's a radical act of emotional mastery. When you choose not to react, when you meet provocations with calm detachment or simply refuse to engage, you remove the one thing toxic people need to survive, your emotional response. Without it, their strategy collapses. They throw a jab, and it doesn't land. They try to push your buttons, and nothing happens. Over time, they lose interest. Why? Because your presence no longer feeds their chaos. It becomes a mirror showing them they hold no power here. But let's be honest. Staying neutral in the face of manipulation is not easy, especially when the wounds they poke at run deep. That's why neutrality requires more than just willpower. It demands deep internal strength. And to develop that strength, we must build a solid foundation, internal boundaries. That's where we're headed next. Because while external boundaries are important, they're meaningless if you don't have strong ones within. And it's those invisible inner lines that truly protect you from being emotionally hijacked. A lot of people think that setting boundaries is all about learning to say no to others. And while that's important, there's a deeper truth that rarely gets talked about. External boundaries mean nothing if your internal boundaries are weak. Toxic people don't just invade your time or physical space, they invade your mind. And they succeed because they find open doors inside you. These open doors are your unmet needs. The need to be liked, to be accepted, to avoid conflict, to prove you're good, kind, or worthy. As long as these needs scream louder than your self-respect, anyone can use them to manipulate you. This is where Carl Jung's wisdom becomes vital. He reminded us that the shadow, those disowned, unconscious parts of ourselves, governs us when we fail to recognize and integrate them. And one of the most deeply buried shadows many of us carry is the belief that we must be loved by everyone to be okay. Behind that lies a deep fear. The fear of rejection, abandonment, and isolation. Toxic individuals smell that fear like sharks smell blood. They know they can keep you hooked simply by threatening to withdraw their affection, their respect, or their approval. They don't even need to say anything out loud. Sometimes a change in tone, a look of disappointment, or a cold silence is all it takes. And suddenly, you're scrambling to fix things, to smooth things over, to make them like you again. Without realizing it, you hand over your emotional power. But when you develop internal boundaries, that dynamic breaks. Internal boundaries mean you know who you are and what you stand for, even when no one else approves. They mean you've made peace with the fact that not everyone will like you, and you're okay with that. You no longer fear being alone, misunderstood, or judged, because your sense of self is rooted in truth, not validation. This doesn't mean you become hard, closed off, or unapproachable. Quite the opposite. With strong internal boundaries, you move through life with lightness. You're no longer driven by the need to please or to keep every relationship intact. You can let people go without falling apart. You can say no without guilt. You can disagree without feeling like your identity is at risk. And most importantly, toxic people sense this. They see that they can't guilt trip you, shame you, or manipulate your emotions like before. They don't see a fragile soul begging for connection. They see a steady, grounded individual who cannot be baited. This kind of internal strength makes you immune to their games. When someone tries to provoke you, test you, or push your buttons, You don't get sucked in. You see the playbook. You feel the manipulation. But you don't react. You stay grounded. You stay you. But here's the catch. Building this kind of inner resilience doesn't happen overnight. It takes courage. It means sitting with your fears instead of running from them. It means facing the younger, wounded parts of yourself that still want approval, attention, or love at any cost. And it means choosing over and over again to be loyal to yourself, even when it's hard. This journey isn't for the faint of heart, but every time you make that choice, you reinforce your psychic integrity. And with each step, your energy shifts, and those who once fed off your insecurities simply fade away. But we're not done yet, because the deepest part of the shadow still waits to be faced. The part most people avoid, the dark side within themselves. And until you have the courage to meet that part head-on, someone out there will always find a way to use it against you. That's where we're headed next. Now we step into the most difficult, and paradoxically, the most liberating part of this entire journey, facing your own darkness. Everything we talked about, recognizing projections, mastering your reactions, building internal boundaries, leads us here. Because the ultimate root of vulnerability to toxic people isn't just poor boundaries or suppressed emotions. It's the refusal to accept the darker aspects of our own nature. Carl Jung once said, "To know your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of others." And this is more than poetic wisdom. It's psychological truth. Because whatever you hide, deny, or reject in yourself becomes a weapon others can and will use against you. Let's be honest. We all have thoughts and feelings we're not proud of. Envy, spite, resentment, rage, the desire to control, to hurt, to manipulate. We've all felt these at some point. But instead of owning them, most of us bury them. We pretend they don't exist. We wrap ourselves in a persona of kindness, humility, or politeness, thinking that's what it means to be good. But buried doesn't mean gone. Those disowned parts remain alive, buried in the basement of the psyche, where they continue to fester. And the more we deny them, the more vulnerable we become, because toxic people can see them. They have an uncanny radar for your hidden shame, your need to be perfect, your desperate attempts to always be the good one. And that's exactly where they strike. You try to prove your worth, your innocence, your integrity, and in doing so, you fall right back into their trap. But integrating the shadow doesn't mean becoming heartless or cruel. It means acknowledging that all of those traits exist within you and choosing how to engage with them. You accept your anger without being controlled by it. You recognize your capacity for manipulation and choose transparency instead. You realize you could seek revenge, but instead you rise above it. Not because you're too pure, but because you're conscious. This is real power. It's not about being flawless. It's about being whole. When you can say, yes, I have envy. Yes, I felt rage. Yes, I've wanted to dominate, and still choose a higher path. You stop fearing judgment. Why? Because you've already looked your demons in the eye. You've stripped them of their power by making peace with them. And this is the energy toxic people can't stand. They feed on guilt, shame, and fear. But when you've accepted even the ugliest parts of yourself, you become untouchable. You have nothing left to hide, and therefore nothing to defend. The game ends because there's no longer a mask for them to rip off. Jung warned us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This is why people repeat the same toxic patterns over and over, not because they want to, but because they've never dared to face the parts of themselves they've tried to forget. But when you do, when you integrate your shadow fully, something extraordinary happens. You stop seeking external validation. You stop fearing rejection. You stop hiding. You live in a kind of inner freedom that few people ever taste. And toxic people, they simply lose interest. Because without guilt, shame, or unacknowledged fear, there's nothing for them to feed on. No hooks, no levers, just presence, power, and peace. But integration doesn't just repel toxicity. It attracts something even better. And that's where we'll go next. Once you've begun to integrate your shadow, to reclaim the pieces of yourself you've spent years denying or hiding, something profound starts to shift, not just within you, but in the world around you. Because this work isn't just about protecting yourself from toxic people. That's only the beginning. The real gift of integration is the freedom to live authentically, without the burden of constantly editing who you are to fit other people's expectations. When you no longer fear your own darkness, you become emotionally self-sufficient. You stop depending on the approval of others to feel whole. You stop censoring your words to avoid rejection. You stop apologizing for existing in your full, complex truth. This new energy, the energy of someone who's both aware and unashamed of their own humanity, is magnetic. It draws in people who are also grounded, mature, and emotionally intelligent. The quality of your relationships begins to change. The people you once attracted, the ones who fed off your guilt, your neediness, your self-doubt, they drift away. Why? Because you're no longer vibrating on the same frequency. Toxic people hunt for emotional cracks, but you've sealed yours with self-awareness. You filled them with acceptance, not shame. And in doing so, you rise above their reach, not in arrogance, but in peace. Your workplace starts to feel less draining. Your social interactions leave you energized, not depleted. You stop replaying conversations in your head, wondering if you said too much or too little. You stop shrinking yourself to keep the peace or exaggerating yourself to gain attention. You just show up as you are, and it's more than enough. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of psychic integrity. It's not just inner strength, it's inner wholeness. And when you walk through the world with that kind of presence, you become a mirror. Some people will be drawn to it. Others, especially those who rely on emotional chaos, will recoil from it. And that's okay, because you're no longer trying to win people over. You're no longer at war with yourself. And here's a powerful bonus. Your transformation has ripple effects. When one person stops feeding into toxic patterns, it disrupts entire dynamics. When you stop playing the role you were assigned, whether it's the peacemaker, the overgiver, the easy target, others are forced to confront their own shadows too. You become a living reminder that it's possible to live without emotional manipulation, without drama, without fear. You don't need to preach or convert anyone. Your energy speaks for itself, and those who are ready to grow will feel drawn to your clarity. They'll feel safe in your presence. Because you're not projecting, not judging, not chasing. You're just being. And that's the most powerful stance of all. In the final part, we'll bring everything together. And I'll leave you with a truth that, if you embrace it, can permanently shift the way you walk through the world. Let's bring all of this together. What Carl Jung gave us wasn't just theory. It was a roadmap. A way to stop feeling powerless in a world that often feels overrun with manipulation, drama, and emotional games. He showed us that the battle is not out there. It's within. You cannot control who crosses your path. You cannot eliminate all the toxic people in the world. But what you can do, what you have total power over, is who you become in response to them. And the most powerful version of you is not the one who fights harder or speaks louder. It's the one who no longer needs to fight at all, the one who's done the inner work, who knows themselves so fully that no external threat can destabilize them. When you integrate your shadow, you stop projecting. You stop feeding the drama. You stop needing approval to feel worthy. You begin to operate on a completely different plane, one where emotional predators can't reach you because you no longer carry the pain they're looking to exploit. You become, in Jung's words, psychologically invisible to them. And that invisibility doesn't mean you're hiding. It means you're no longer available for the role of the victim, the fixer, or the pleaser. You've stepped off the stage. You've stopped performing. And now you get to live. Live in peace, live in freedom, live in truth. And here's what's even more beautiful. This kind of freedom is magnetic, not to chaos, but to clarity. You start attracting people who see you, respect you, and meet you where you are. Your relationships shift. Your energy is no longer spent managing others' emotions or defending yourself. You are calm, clear, powerful. You stop fearing your darkness because you've met it, integrated it, and claimed it. And in doing so, you also reclaim the light within you, the part that was buried under all the guilt, fear, and self-rejection. This is the paradox. The more you accept your flaws, the less power they have over you. The more you embrace your shadow, the more radiant your presence becomes. And toxic people? They vanish. Not because you push them away, but because there's simply nothing left for them to feed on. But there's one last step, something few people ever do. But those who do change everything. And that's where we'll end this journey. The final and most transformative step is this: choose wholeness over perfection. Most of us grow up believing that to be loved, we must be flawless, always calm, always kind, always in control. But Jung's work turns that illusion upside down. He taught that the goal of life isn't to become perfect, it's to become whole. Wholeness means embracing every part of yourself, the light and the dark, the noble and the selfish, the healed and the hurting. It means understanding that your anger, your fear, your ambition, your sadness, they all have a place in your human experience. They are not flaws to be fixed. They are truths to be understood and integrated. When you live from this place, you no longer need to wear masks. You no longer fear being found out because you've already faced yourself. You don't chase approval or hide behind performance. You stand in your truth, and that truth is powerful beyond words. Carl Jung left us with this timeless insight. That which you resist not only persists, but grows in size. The more we fight our inner darkness, the more it controls us. But when we bring it into the light, we reclaim it, and we reclaim ourselves. So if you've resonated with anything in this message, know this: your healing doesn't begin when the toxic people leave your life. It begins the moment you stop abandoning yourself, the moment you choose to look inward, to befriend your shadow, and to live from a place of self-respect so deep that no external chaos can pull you away from it. And from that place, you don't just repel toxicity, you attract truth, depth, and peace. You become unshakable. If this message spoke to you, take a moment to reflect. What part of it hit you the hardest? Leave a comment below. Putting your insight into words is a powerful act of integration. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel for more content that supports your journey inward and upward. See you in the next video.